was a point where we would go 3 o'clock, we'd practice every now. We practice at 10 in the morning, which is good. But leading up to 3 o'clock with academics, Seidenberg's years, and Winston's years, and those guys were wild.
You're putting out fires left and right.
And then boom, you got to go in the practice room. You got to be great. I talk to my team every day, like we do these 5-minute announcements. You know, this is what we got coming up, how practice is going to be run, you know, where we're at. But last thing I always leave them with is just be great today. No matter what's going on in life, just try to be great right now and lock in and just don't check a box. But that was every single day. To this day, right now, I wake up every day, energy and enthusiasm. And when I can't do that anymore.
Guys, before we get started, just want to let you know, if you have any questions for us, please click the link below. You could ask us any questions via email, and we'll get back to you by the end of the episode. All right, guys, we're here for episode 35 of the Modern Man's Podcast. We got very special guest, Coach Scott Goodale, who I've looked up to as a coach, as a person for a long time from afar. He's a family man. He's got 2 kids. His son, Zach, is still at Rutgers now. His daughter graduated recently, and he's the head coach of that Rutgers wrestling program. They're in the Big Ten. They're doing amazing jobs up there. They're always selling out Jersey Mike's Arena, and I credit a lot of what's going on up there to this guy, Scott. So I reached out to him. I asked him if he wants to come on, and he didn't hesitate. He said, tell me when, and we're just thrilled to have him. So thanks so much for joining us, Coach.
I appreciate it. It's good to be on with you guys, man. No doubt, for sure.
Luckily, Petey shot a shot.
Yeah.
We went after it. Good job.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
You took that one.
Yeah. Well, really, we had all these guests on. Your name kept coming up. We were just talking a little bit. We had Frankie Edgar, Dave Porta, which went back to the Jackson Memorial days, which we'll get to. Jeff Pascarella, one of the guys you coached, him and I are buddies. Sean Dedine, Lex Knapp was here. We had Seidi on here talking about a lot of really, really good stuff. Seidi's really been a game changer for a lot of people, literally changing lives. Changing lives, saving lives. And he's just living that life, He's
so comfortable with himself, too.
Yeah.
Just, he gets online, he's posting videos. I could never do that.
Yeah, but the Seidi that we know and love and met in the sauna at Thrive is a different Seidi that I'm sure Goodale saw.
Yeah. I'm actually shocked. I'm not shocked because he was always such a good dude, was bright, was bright as all get out. So I'm not shocked that he's doing this. I heard he was
a wild man.
Wild man.
Yeah.
Tough,
what I've been told.
Tough kid. Kind of felt was our mold. So it was a good fit. And that whole group that he was with, just tough cat. So it's good to see what he's doing.
I'm sure. I mean, that's got to be interesting for you to be with these kids from 18 to 26. And you kind of get a feel for who they are at the core as a person. But and obviously the focus is wrestling, but the focus is always way more than that. It's kind of interesting to see what kind of gauge you have on these guys. You could probably see for the most part, when these guys show up and they're going through all these sacrifices on a daily, they're going to be successful in whatever they end up doing. But you kind of just hope that if they're in that left lane, you hope they put that blinker on sooner than later. You can't stay there for forever. You can't stay in that college energy forever.
Well, you got to grow up at some point.
Yeah.
But you're teaching them persistence, show up, face adversity, overcome. Look at a guy like Dave. He molded himself in those years, and look at him now on the other side.
Yeah.
So everybody that you brought up there has a special part of, what I've been doing and why I do it, and a special part of my life, right?
Yeah.
You talk about Frankie Edgar, I've been with him for a long, long time because he started his training at Rutgers. His wrestling was at Rutgers, and then he coached with us when we first started. It was Coach Leonardis, myself, and Frankie was like a part-time guy that would do his training for his fights out of our gym. So, but Dave Porta, man, that's a Jackson guy. There's a story there.
Great guy, too.
Yeah, there's a story. Everybody you mentioned, there's a story, and that I can vividly remember. So that's kind of why we do it. That's all part of it. Man, I've been doing it 30 years now.
God bless.
Which is crazy, and it doesn't get easier. It gets harder, especially the conference we're in. But the relationships never, for me, it's what gets me up in the morning every single day is those relationships. And I've been very, very fortunate to be a part of something really special at Rutgers. But even when I first started, to go back to my alma mater right down the road here and be a part of Jackson Wrestling, which is the only thing I ever wanted to do, which is kind of crazy, right? I get made fun of a lot.
You're going to
go back to Jackson and be a gym teacher. I'm going to go back and be a physical educator, but yes, I'm going to go back and coach wrestling. That's all I ever wanted to do. So
I love it.
When you were there, Jackson was like the stud program in the area.
Yeah, we had some good teams. I think that's kind of why.
Some great teams.
Yeah, why I got the job,
I'm sure.
We were ranked third in the country, 2005, I think 4th in 2006, and then one thing led to another. Started out with a 5-point plan from a Rutgers fan, a guy by the name of Bill Ard, told me to come up with a plan to help with Rutgers wrestling. It wasn't for me.
Right.
And over a couple bottles of wine with my wife, on a napkin, we came up with this 5-point plan, and
That's
it was
awesome.
because of the success we've had at Jackson.
Right.
That allowed him to this is the guy you should, and it was an interview.
Yeah.
Just this is what Rutgers needs to do. I had Coach Leonardis put it together for me, make me look kind of smart, and I turned it over, and I was going to go back to Jackson. I thought we could be the number 1 team in the country. It was Blair Academy, and then us. We were that good.
Wow.
I just felt we were that good, and we could.
You were good for a while,
for a long time, yeah. So, and then the next thing you know, I was on this interview process, and a guy by the name of Bernie Ryder, who anybody who knows Jackson knows Mr. Ryder.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do anything. You know, a lot of people go to their mom or their dad for advice, and I listen. I love my mom and dad, and they were a huge part of growing up in Jackson, especially the athletic part of it. But anything I ever did professionally, I went to Mr. Ryder.
I love it.
He was Jackson, and for the first time, because there were other opportunities before that, and he's like, "It's not the right time for you. It's not the right time for you." And I'm like, "This guy just wants to keep me here because I'm a Jackson coach."
He likes winning.
He knew.
He likes winning, and I love Jackson. So again, it's all I wanted to do. But for the first time, he told me, and he's like, "You need to take this opportunity." And from that day forward, I became freaked out by this challenge. And 17 years later, I wake up the same way every morning, and it's just really not all I think about, but a lot of what I think.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dewey was wearing a lot of gear that I think he got from Bernie.
Yeah.
He was telling me. I think Dewey has had a really strong relationship with him as well.
Relationship, Mr. Ryder.
At the end of the day, man, we get so wrapped up in the hardware. We get so wrapped up in the wins and losses and high school level, group titles, individual stuff. At the end of the day, it's all about the relationships. It's all about this community. I've been telling the young kids that now with JJ and the battle that he's gone through, thankfully he's doing amazing. But I said wrestling was just our platform to connect. Wrestling was just our way to all get in front of each other and all get connected. Yeah, we do have these monster goals, and everyone's going to work hard and they're going to do our best. But at the end of the day, it's all about those people, and to know that you had those people along the way that you could lean on. Now, was he your coach? How did you get such a strong connection?
Mr. Ryder was Jackson Wrestling. Started the program in 1966, and I think he actually retired kind of early for, what now, it might have been 14 or 15 years, 81, 82.
Yeah.
He retired, and then when I was little, I was going to those matches. Jackson Howell, big deal.
I bet.
So I was a real little kid going to those matches, and then he stopped coaching, and it became Dave Pepe, Mr. Pepe, Mr. Porfirio, Al Ayers, and then myself. So that was really it at Jackson. There were 5 coaches when I took over that job. So, but he was, at that time, he was the principal. First, he was the athletic director. Then he was the principal. But he was Jackson. Nobody in town walked through that town and didn't know Mr. Ryder.
That's awesome.
And a huge influence on my life. So for sure, he was the guy, and he always stayed on point with what was going on with our wrestling program. So
That's great.
Dewey had a really, really strong relationship with Bernie.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. And I'm sure you and Dewey got a lot of time together as well.
did.
And we had this one group going back in 2007 where Scott Winston, Zach Cunliffe, me, and Dewey would go to Howell High School once a week. And dude, it was the best.
Yeah.
It was the best.
Zach
It was
come
like
with us today.
it was like looking back, it was like one of my favorite just small group. We weren't talking. Yeah. We were just in there. Freaking Scotty was in high school. Me, Dewey, and Zach were all in college.
Yeah.
Kid had grown man barbecue calves at 17. I'm like, dude, you got kids? This guy's a grown ass man. So. And Scotty pretty much was one of those guys right with you that came right from Jackson, right to Rutgers, helped lay the foundation back in those days for what you guys had. But I was talking a little bit about what Kylie was telling us, how he said that there's energy vacuums and energy batteries. You have this energy battery about you that I noticed as a high school kid, just watching you and being anywhere near you guys. And I knew a lot of the Jackson guys, and I was friendly with a lot of those guys, Joe Urell, all those guys from back in the day, 2004, early 2000s. And you guys just had this swagger about you that we ended up having at Johnson and Wales, where it's kind of you guys walk in with the gray hoodies on, and the whole gym just knows, and I'm sure you played a role in that. Like, was that like a mental thing or was that in the room? Like, I'm trying to take a few things from you and see what I can kind of cultivate on my own. So,
yeah, it's interesting you say that. So, the way we ran our practices and the way we ran our program, there's two things you could bring every single day of your life. It's energy and enthusiasm.
Yes.
That's it. So no matter what, and I talk about this with recruits all the time, no matter what I'm doing in life leading up to that practice, that's part of life, right?
Yep.
Your family, your bills, your this, your that. You're sick or you don't feel great. It's not your best day. The minute that practice is getting ready to start, there's energy and enthusiasm. And you could bring it every day. And nobody could, there's no reason not to have it. And that's the way I felt at a young age. Like, why would I go into a practice room and not give this group my absolute all? I was the same way in football when I coached. I was the same way in softball when I helped out with that. I was the same way in golf. Like,
I can imagine.
I want action with the golfers. and I didn't last too long as a
you're
golf
like,
coach.
dude, chill out.
I feel like that's like you, though, Pete.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like you. I mean, you put your best foot forward every day with the kids you're coaching. You bring
feel it.
all, and you bring all the positive vibes. Every one of those kids in that room feels your energy.
But shit, I've lost some recruits days right before a practice. I've lost some family. You lost some family friends. There's been accidents. There's been tragedies. There's been just really, really bad days. And you got to go down. And there was a point where we would go 3 o'clock. We'd practice now we practice at 10 in the morning, which is good.
Yeah.
But leading up to 3 o'clock, with academics, Seidenberg's years,
A lot could
years, and
happen.
Meldy's years, those guys were wild.
You're putting out fires left and right.
and then boom, you got to go in the practice room. You got to be great.
That's a lot to
You gotta
navigate.
be great, and that's. I talk to my team every day. Like, we do these 5-minute announcements. This is what we got coming up. This is what we got to be ready for. If it's a travel day, next couple days, we'll talk about that. How practice is going to be run. Where we're at. But the last thing I always leave them with is just be great today. Just be great. No matter what's going on in life, just be great for these next 2 hours, not even 2 hours, hour and a half. Yeah. Just try to be great right now and lock in and just don't check a box. And when we were at Jackson, it was every day. I would say this all the time, especially in those 2000, we never had a bad day of practice. Wow. And it wasn't just my guys. It wasn't the wins. It wasn't even though they were so good. It was the coaching staff. Yeah. You be great today or don't even come in. And that was the expectation. I have to be on. And every coach had a role. Heck, I hired the head football coach, Mike Smith, was our assistant wrestling coach. Not that he knew anything about wrestling, but he took care of those big guys, make sure they trained hard and they were prepared for football.
And he had a great football program,
He had a great football program, which I was fortunate enough to be part of that. But that was every single day. This day right now, I don't know the exact date. What's the May 24th, whatever it is. I wake up every day, energy and enthusiasm. And when I can't do that anymore, and it's getting harder.
I can imagine.
It's hard, especially with the culture we're in now with NIL, which we'll talk about, or NIL, and the portal. It's hard, but if I can't do that, that's probably when it's time for me to do something else. So, but right now,
you can feel the energy at Jersey Mike's, dude. I mean, you can't. I feel like energy and enthusiasm. You can't buy it on Amazon, and it's not something that you could replicate. You can't try to be that guy if you're not that guy at the core. If you're not that guy at the core, you can get that guy around you, but to be able to feel that as a spectator sitting there with my son and to feel your energy, you watch the bench. And a lot of times, I said, wrestling gets very selfish. You might have talks with guys like, hey, take it easy, before your match, go in the back or something. Don't get involved with all this energy. But the whole bench is erupting. You have guys that aren't even dressed that are on the mat yelling too from behind you guys in the coaching staff.
We set out to do that though.
I love it.
I'm not
Mission
saying
accomplished.
But people feed off good energy.
It's not an act, but I know if it's a lull in the match, we got to get this place going a little bit. And maybe it's me throwing a brick or just getting after another coach or getting after. But you're right. We send guys in the back. Yeah. We send guys in the back and say, get the heck out of here.
Calm down. Get your mind right. You're coming up.
Yeah.
Don't waste all your energy now at 125.
You're smart enough to realize that,
we know
which
it.
means
And
you're a good leader.
I'm also surrounded by guys like Donnie Pritzloff is just a savage,
right?
But he's quiet and he looks you in the eye, and and Joe Pollard is just solid in what he's doing, and I'm the kind of, I'm not the hype man. It's not fake, but
no, that's similar. Sometimes I call myself that. Sometimes I call that. It needs a different name.
I want you to come back to the match.
What did
I want you to
Lex
come
say?
to another one.
You have a clap that you do?
That started at Jackson. That started at Jackson.
Well, it's carried to Lex using it at the state championship this year.
So Lex And Lex was telling us, I'm probably going to get the names off and everything, but Lex was basically saying that just this season in Regions, him and one of his teammates from Rutgers were in opposite corners. Yeah. Lex hit your clap, and his boy texted him after. He goes, "You did not hit me with the clap." He goes, "Yeah, I did."
Yeah.
Oh man,
that's how I know about it. He told that story on here.
But he would start at Jackson in those early years where we had a fan base. A couple basketball players, actually, but it ended up being an incredible wrestling fan base. My boy McQuaid, I just think of him. Jiffy Pop would know for sure. Yeah. So these guys would all show up. We would have girls show up with singlets on. It was crazy.
It was wild.
But it'd be a third period. Next thing you know, it'd be a clap. It'd be slow though. It's got to start slow.
Got to be the slow clap.
I do it all every camp I'm at now. We do.
Yeah.
I'd give a situation. Dylan Shaw 4-3. He's down 4-3. 20 seconds left to go, and from the top of the rafters of Jersey Mike's, here comes the clap.
Oh.
And if they start going too fast, I'm like, nope, we lost. Slow it down. So yeah, we kind of play with it now, and it's taken over. At Jackson, it really took over. You know, every state championship that we won, we had huge crowds that would start to clap, and our guys would motivate our guys. It was crazy.
I love it. He's past battery, dude. He's generator status.
It's a good thing because right now I'm a vacuum. I'm taking all of it. We're going through some stuff, and I'm just sitting here kind of out of it.
He's that full. What were we saying? Nuclear power plant, dude. This guy's almost nuclear power plant with the energy.
Listen, you're not far behind your generator right now.
I got years and years of things to do to get to that level, but yeah, man, that energy is so contagious. And even like what Billy's saying, like I had a tough day, and hey, just bear with me here. Yeah. Like that energy is contagious too. And I used to fall into some traps where I would let an energy vampire bite my neck, and it would take my energy. Yeah. And I was saying,
why
what am I
you
doing?
The warning where I'm at
what am
today.
I doing? This ain't my. You're doom and gloom. You're negative vibe. I don't jive with that, but I can't let that affect me. And I would sit in that for a few hours. You know, whether one person, you know, shoulders. No. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying in general that there's these energy vampires out there.
100%.
You know, you got somebody like Coach that's going to get everybody juiced up and feeling good and be grateful for another day on earth. But then you got somebody that gives you those shoulders.
Oh,
How you doing? Oh, I'm all right. And if you have that on a coaching staff or you have that on a program,
it's going to suck the life out of it.
The whole program.
We have asked kids to leave. Listen, get out. Get out. Yeah. You could be the best kid in the country. You got to get out of here today.
Yeah, you can't bring everybody around you down.
Yeah. Now, it's a hard thing to do.
It is.
It's a hard thing to do. Do you think, studs, you know?
Do you think a little bit of your culture that you've carried to Rutgers now, or a lot of it, was based and formed with that tight community in Jackson? I mean, Jackson is, or was at least, a major wrestling town. It was, I mean,
same
as far as I can remember,
Yeah. You know, I could tell you when I first started in 2007, we were going to bring the same work ethic and the same mantra and the same swag that we. Now, the only problem was at the time we weren't great, so it was hard. It was hard because we weren't, you weren't winning as much, and we won, but we didn't win as much as we did at Jackson, so it was hard, and you have to do it every day.
That had to be a culture shock a little bit to you.
Right? I always, and I don't really mean this, but I thought we had a team at Jackson that can compete with what I first started with. We had some really good kids. 8 of them were Division I guys, so there's no doubt they could compete. But I just had to make sure we got the recruiting classes kept building, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Like you're having a bad day, it's part of it.
That comes with it.
And I had it. I'll never forget. And this is a true story, man. When I got the job, I didn't do the schedule, so I got there Ohio State on the road. We lost 37-0. We lost to Lehigh 32-6. We lost to Maryland like 23-7. I called my wife. I said, "What the heck?"
You were questioning all your decisions.
I called the athletic director. True story. I said, "Listen, I want a yellow school bus. I want it to be cold. I don't want to stay in a nice hotel. I want no bag lunches. I want that thing to
make
go
those
beep,
boys hungry.
Beep. I want it to be freezing cold the day of we're leaving." He's like, "Coach, this is like big time, right?" It's like at the time EIWA, I go, this is Rutgers. You can't do that. I said, this is what we need. I'm telling you, this is what we did at Jackson. Morning of, cold school bus. That's what I kind of wanted, right? But you can't have a bad day. You have to bounce back. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. And sure enough, we won our first duel January 4th, 2008 in front of 22 people. Damn. All right. So I only know that because the clock went out. Wow. The clock went out. I had to go in the back of my car to bring the clock in. Here we are, Division I school. So, and I was able to sit, and 10 of them were Goodales, but That's neither
Still.
here nor there. But,
You had your own bus
but
filled
it
with
wasn't going to
Goodales.
stop what we were doing. We were going
Right.
to win, and we were going to win at a high level, and then, of course, the Winston class, and fast forward the Ashnolts, the Surianos, and everything fell in place.
That was a special time when you guys got the
Yeah.
2 NCAA champs.
And there's a lot of long days. There were days because you always got to fail, right? There's always failure.
Well,
And
I've
we had
said
it.
that a lot here too.
Yeah.
Just in wrestling, I've realized that for my son. He's 6.
Yeah.
We're not here to win any state tournaments at 6 years old. I'm trying to teach him the tools to be successful at 60.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you
Listen, you take bumps and bruises as you go, whether it's personal stuff, health, finances, whatever it is. You got to figure out how to persevere.
Yep.
And I've said it before, and you're kind of echoing what I say. Every storm leads to a rainbow. So you gotta know there's gonna be a light coming.
Yeah.
Sunshine's gonna come through at some point.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, this isn't all peaches and cream. This was hard.
I can
building.
imagine.
It was really, really
And that
difficult.
wasn't just 1 year of hard. I mean,
No,
that
it
was
years
that was a
of
while
not-
that you stayed in there.
Sure,
And,
years
and
of
you're
not
coming
having
from immense
All-Americans,
success.
right?
Yeah. And now you got people chirping from the
Oh,
stands.
and I'm sure
Yeah.
you're questioning yourself.
yeah,
and was
yeah.
this the right choice? And
So what really kept you going in those
I
moments?
just
That's
knew
our
it.
wheelhouse.
I knew it was going to turn, and
Yeah.
I just believed in what we were doing. I surrounded myself with great people, Coach Leonardis, Coach Pollard. 1 year it was Frankie, 1 year it was Corey, 1 year it was Frankie Molinaro, one Brandon Beckers
just
of the world.
build,
and just
build
keep
it.
building, and it's gonna. And then you go into the Big Ten. So
Yeah.
here we are. We get
There's
our
another.
first. We get our first All-American. We're riding high. We're getting ready to roll the IWA. We took third. I'm like, we're getting ready. Cornell, Lehigh, we'll be fine. We're going to roll this thing, and they're great programs.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, we're in the Big Ten. Oh shit, you got to start this thing
Right
all
back-
over again.
right back to where
But
you
that
were.
That was exciting because it was
Yeah.
new. It was
you get to rebuild.
recruiting the best guys in the country. But it was, and there were hard days. There were hard days where you always question, man, what do I need to do? And then boom, Anthony Ashnell, Donnie Pritzloff. The rest is history. It kind of
love it.
changed everything. And I stayed with it. But I never lost who I was. Energy,
great.
enthusiasm, meeting with donors, going out on dinners. We're going to win. We're going to win a national title. We're going to win a national title. And my tone changed a little bit. We're going to win a trophy at the national tournament because I see what I'm not blowing smoke. I see what Penn State's doing. What
You gotta be a
Iowa's
realist.
doing, and,
Right.
But then you get the new facility. You get all the now you're in the now. There's more people chirping because there's expectations, you know, and that's good. That's the reason why I want people to chirp, good or bad.
Yeah.
This is what I got into it for. We're gonna build this thing where Rutgers wrestling matters. So
sure
all those
does.
haters, we call them hate. That's fine. That's all part of it.
Yep.
I never worried about that because I'm okay in my own skin. At least that's the way I felt. I've worked my tail off every single day of my life. And not just me. I'm surrounded by all those assistants I've mentioned. But every day of my life I wake up, I'm thinking about Rutgers wrestling. Every night when I go to bed, I'm thinking. And listen, I'm not proud that there's times I've said this publicly. I haven't been the best dad, but I've had kids. My son, Zach, my daughter, Shelby. And it gives me chills even that understood what I was doing. And a wife that, all right, we're taking this step, then it's got to be all in. And that's
I
what
just
I
got the
did.
chills, too.
Yeah, and
Well, you're building something that is not simple. You're not building a wrestling team. You're building an entire program over there. And I mean, at a huge level. It's not like high school anymore. You are in the big leagues, and that had to be an adjustment for the family, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I understand the fact that you would say, like, maybe I haven't been a good dad, but there's also another lens to look at it. And while you say maybe I wasn't a good dad because maybe you missed a few things or weren't around
that's
that
kinda what
much or
I'm talking
weren't
about, yeah.
weren't present in the
I'm sure
moment.
they understand.
But what you were doing though simultaneously, as you may have felt like, damn, I missed that game. I'm here. I got to be here. I got to be there. You gave them the blueprint for what it's going to take when they figure something out that they're going to want to chase down.
Yeah.
There's going to be sacrifices.
well, I see my daughter now chasing down jobs, and
Yeah, I love
everybody
it.
wants her. And like, she's exciting, and she's vibrant, and she's got so much energy, and she's super competitive. I'm like,
That's learned behavior, man.
That's my girl.
Hey,
right?
if you would have just cracked when
I
things
know.
got tough in 2011,
yeah.
you know, she would have cracked in the workforce,
Yeah.
and she wouldn't have had that energy
Kids are like
to
a sponge, right?
Yeah.
But I just,
But
mean,
I
you
get
know,
it. No.
I'd be at a dance recital and my phone rings and man, that's a recruit. Do I watch this? And, and there's sometimes I picked up the phone and walked out. And there's other times I was like, it can wait. And I've gotten better as I've gotten older.
Good.
But when I first started out, we have to make an
So
impact.
eager.
I gotta get this kid. I
I get that.
Yeah, Billy and I are in a similar realm with the phones and the kids, and our kids are young. My oldest is 9, 4, and 2. And there's times in the mortgages where people need you at 7:30, and I'm like, hey, I know we got dinner, and my wife, thankfully, just like yours, supports it 100%. Same thing with the wrestling and stuff. But yeah, it's hard with the phones, and nowadays, like, you don't really have. Obviously, it's not a 9 to 5, but you don't even really have like a time that you could just say, hey, no phones, because your phone could be ringing not only for a recruit, but there could be a kid at 8:30 at night that needs you. It's like, hey, you're my guy. You're my guy, not just for the 2 hours that we're rolling. Yep. You're my guy.
Yeah, the parents kind of entrust you to
exactly.
You take them, you recruit them, you bring them in, and it's 5 years.
But it takes a special person to do that because, I mean, in all essence, they send the kid to you. Yeah. You're now dad kind of while you're there.
I remember, this is great because you could relate to it, but I remember being on the phone with Douglas Stanley, Dewey, all hours of the night when he was at Purdue, and then being with Scott Winston. And my wife would be like, you got to cut that a little bit and be their coach. Like, you can't be their buddy. And she was right. But I love those, especially
I got the chills again,
Dewey's my guy. Like, I love that kid. I love him. And, in our worst day, Region 6, 12 guys in the quarters. We have 2 guys go to the state tournament, 2004. Worst day of my coaching career, probably, as far as when it comes to wins and losses.
Right.
But that same day, Dewey's in the Big Ten Finals, wins the semi, so it kind of all.
Exactly.
But I love that kid. And Scotty Winston, he went on a recruiting trip to Illinois and had a bad experience and called me at 3 a.m, and I picked up that phone call.
Wow.
It's a special man right there.
Yeah, and he called me, so I'm thinking, this guy trusted me and called me, and he was at the University of Illinois. I said, just get home and let's get this thing done here, and that was it. And so I'm forever grateful for that guy and his whole team. And so.
Yeah, but that's the power. That's what I'm talking about. And I got the chills again. And it's like, that's the power of what you have going on and what we're grateful enough to have in this wrestling community, that you could have the hardship of your own team, but also be able to enjoy, because it's not like now when they leave college, you lose touch. It's not like when they left high school, you lose touch. So that day to have some struggle go on at Region 6, was that at the Ritaco Center?
Ritaco Center.
Yeah, have some struggle at the Ritaco Center, which you probably had great days over there too, by the way. And then, to be able to celebrate that Big Ten, I end up falling into a similar realm where a lot of these kids that I'll be talking to, they're either just finishing up with college or trying to get their mind right during the season in college. They're reaching out to me, who was either their high school coach or their youth coach, reaching out to me for some guidance when, mom and dad might not be the right call. Your college coach might not be the right call either. You don't really want to let him know exactly how you're feeling, and especially when you're the guy. So that to me is really what it's all about, dude. The relationships, the community.
It's special now that I'm older. Like somebody like Giro will reach out to me, or Joe Urell will reach out to me because they're whether
Giro's
they're going through something. So I love that. Like, that's why I got into this, to serve others and to help others. And winning is very, very important. Winning's important, and I love to win, and I hate to lose, and I'm super competitive. But at the end of the day, I kind of know why I got into it. Yeah. And it's, like I said, 30 years worth, and kind of feel good about it. So,
that's amazing.
And you try to bring that to your own kids.
Right.
And that's, everywhere I go, I say this with my son, who is a really pretty good athlete and has done well. He's playing football at Rutgers now, but he left the football program. He quit, basically. And in our family, that's like, holy heck. But he went about it a different road. He had to find himself, and he had to grow up. But just growing up with him, and I knew he was a special talent. And I like to think I did this. I didn't ruin his career on the car ride home. See? That makes sense.
I hope more people are listening to that. And what I was going to say is, for Zach, is you didn't force feed him to your passion of wrestling.
No. It was actually a pretty happy day when he said, I don't want to wrestle anymore. I was like, thank God, because I know what it takes.
And for such an athletic kid, he would have been successful just being an athlete.
Well, that's what would happen. He was so into football, so into baseball. When it was wrestling season, he wrestled. And by the end of the year, he would do great. I remember the Santinellos and the Al DeSantis, who wrestles for me now. They were all in his weight. The Lipsons, Conklins, the Rankings, they were all his weight. So he would lose those guys. I'm like, they're club kids. Like, you're never going to catch them unless he's like, but I want to play football. I said, then you should play football and baseball.
Now that didn't bother you at all?
No, this was his path. And I had a wife that would say to me, just let him his own path. It's
Yes.
every time we go to a
Yes.
wrestling match, oh, Goodale's son here, let's put him in 3 weight classes. I'm like, no,
Yeah, dude.
He's not built for that. Like, he just wants to have fun, and he wasn't having fun doing it. So
I don't blame you.
He
That
follows
itself
it.
is huge.
He loves it.
I'm
He
sure.
gives me hey, at the national tournament this year, if he loses this match, he's dropping to this guy, and we could beat this guy. And I'm telling you, if he wrestles hard, we could beat so-and-so. So
I love
he's
it.
super into it. But football and baseball were his passion. And
I love it.
when he stepped away, that was a tough day. That was a hard day, man. I had to bite my lip a little bit and like, man, because again, selfishly, what are people going to think about me that my son quit, right? You know, and it was never about me, but that's the way as a dad.
Yeah.
It was never about me.
But it
And then-
sounds like you handled it
I love that.
really gracefully.
yeah, it was hard. Coach Shannon and I are very, very tight. So never once talked about it. It was, Zach, because of the COVID years, he probably wasn't, maybe I shouldn't say wasn't going to go to Rutgers, but his recruiting would have went a lot different, if that makes sense, because he couldn't take any trips, COVID. He's probably
Right.
a 1AA kid at the time, which he probably should have done. Maybe something like a Monmouth, right? Would have been great for him, but he loved Rutgers and he grew up Rutgers. And fast forward now, he decides to come back. He drops me off for the Midlands. He brings me to the airport and drops me off. And we were playing a bowl game, Rutgers versus Miami this year. And he's like, Dad, I should be playing in that game. I was like, what are you going to do, man? I still love you no matter what.
Yeah.
You're doing great in school. He lives with all my guys.
Yeah.
And I said, that's part of life. You're going to, one day you'll be able to tell your kids, listen, stick with it or don't, or find your own path. And he's like, no, I want to play. So you got to go talk to coach. And he's like, I'm going to go talk to coach. I said, really? And sure enough, Coach Shiano came up to me, after that, maybe 2 weeks later, and said, man, he's got a set on him. He just came in my office and chopped it up, and they just moved him over to defense. He had a great spring game. He's making tackles, making interceptions. He's doing great.
I love it, because he was a wide receiver in
He was a
high
wide
school,
receiver,
right?
So they just decided to change him. So he found his way.
I
And
love it.
As
That's what it's all about.
As parents, that's a hard thing because you're impatient. I'm impatient. I'm right now.
Yeah.
Let's do it right now. But God bless, he found his way and did it on his terms and had nothing to do with me. And my wife's always the voice of reason. They usually
sure.
are, right?
I'm sure.
But
Always
that's
are.
huge for you to
It
have
really
let him
is.
do that. That speaks
Yeah.
volumes of who you are.
Yeah.
Because a lot of parents would have tried to intervene. Like, what are you doing?
No.
You're throwing this opportunity down the toilet, whatever. And you let him figure it out. And
You have to.
but he came out the right way in the end. He figured out what he needed to, and he came out swinging.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to find the answers, the best way to navigate. We can't, as parents, my son's halfway to 18. And I'm like, all right, well, if I keep buying him shit.
It's crazy to hear you say that.
Yeah, but if I keep buying him stuff and, I can still give him the hugs and kisses and everything, but I can't be the whole GPS here. I can't,
You gotta let
type
him
in the
find
address.
your
Like,
way.
you got to find your way. And
Find your
if
way.
you get lost a few times along the way, that's good.
And I'm going through it with my daughter right now. She may
imagine.
follow her boyfriend out to Oregon, lacrosse player, been drafted. He's a great lacrosse player. And she probably is going to go with him out to Oregon. That crushes me.
Yeah.
But
Imagine.
she can, I know I'm not getting involved in that because
Right.
she's so strong and
Exactly.
she can do it. And
Exactly.
makes you proud as a dad, but at the same
sure.
time, it's your baby girl. So you don't
I know.
want to.
I'm
Oh
sure
my
you'd
God.
be worried. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's
So-
why I feel that in my stomach for you. But the first thing that I thought of was like, now is the time.
Ross Scott.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Who I love.
He's good. Yeah.
Really good. Just got drafted 20th overall.
Nice.
And lacrosse is weird. You go you don't travel with the team. So he'll be out in Oregon doing lacrosse stuff out in Oregon because they gave him a great gig. So
Nice.
he couldn't say no.
Nice.
But then on the weekends, the Charlotte team will fly him wherever the Charlotte team goes.
That's awesome.
And they come from all over the country to, lacrosse.
I didn't
but-
realize
That's
that's, how
awesome.
it works.
Yeah, that's not it's a professional league, but it's not like you don't go to Charlotte because
Yeah.
you got drafted by Charlotte.
Okay.
You just meet him on Friday.
All right.
They'll practice. He'll play Saturday. He's on a plane Sunday. Back to work.
How do you
Pretty
get
cool.
the team vibe going like
Yeah,
that?
it's not.
A little bit different,
Yeah,
but
it's a little bit
lax
different.
is a little bit
Lax,
different.
yeah.
That's such a fun sport. I played lacrosse in high school,
But
and
it's
I had a
also
freaking
just
blast.
really coming into its own. I mean, think about it. When we
Sure.
were in high school,
Well, yeah,
It's been around
lacrosse
a
was
long
just
time.
been
becoming
around.
something.
Yeah, it's been around a long
It
time.
started
High school
building
just-
here.
Yeah, it's
It's been about
just
20
got there.
years, right?
Yeah.
20 years now.
Yeah, we're coming up 2004. We actually have an alumni lacrosse game on June 1st at Freehold
I didn't know
Township.
you played lacrosse.
Yeah, oh, it was so
I could
fun. I
see
was a
you being
midi.
so-
Oh, it was
yeah.
great, dude. Ground balls and hits.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they kept
I feel like you're
score
going
of
to
that.
crush it June 1st.
I didn't even know they kept score of that. So they called me for the All-Star game. Dude, I had like 0 goals the whole season. And I would have like hockey assists, but like no stats. And then like they called my name. I thought the guy was joking. And I'm like, how? He's like, ground balls. I'm like, that's a category? Nobody even told me that. I love the ground balls. You just put your head down. Oh, dude, that sport was electric. But so yeah, but what I was thinking with your daughter though is like, as hard as that must be for a parent, that's also like opportune time for her to like go see the world, and like that's really, really good for her, and that's going to be a great experience.
Says, like, I've never really been out of Jersey. I've went to Rutgers and felt like she had to go to Rutgers. You didn't have to go to Rutgers. It certainly helped the
I was glad you were there. Yeah.
Now, how old is she?
She's 23 now. Yeah.
All right.
So she got her master's. She's 23.
Yeah, but you know what? She's at a great age where there's not a ton of pressure for her to be like, you know, she doesn't have kids. She hasn't bought a house yet. She's not feeling all the stress.
Doesn't have all that monthly debt piled up that she can't go to Oregon if she really needed to and wanted to. Yeah.
And I'm sure if she hates it,
they'll come back.
I'm sure she can come home.
That's always been such an interesting age, and the conversations are very one-way, force-fed from adults to a 23-year-old on what they're supposed to do for the rest of their life and have it all figured out. And I was actually just talking to Ethan Lipson the other day, and he's like, oh, I'm so glad you talked to me about all this. Because I'm like, yeah, people are probably telling you, like, go do this, go do that. What do you want to do? And I'm like, dude, you got to figure it out. And like, you don't have to have it figured out at 23. Go on the interview. You know, drum up the confidence to go sit in front of somebody. Tell them, have them say no.
Yeah.
You know, get back. Start in a job. Work there for a few months. Get a gauge for what you want to do. And he's like, no, thank you so much. And it's just like, it's tough being at that age. That's a tough age. I remember I was working at the cabin back then and feeling like a loser. I'm like, why did I go to college? I'm waiting on tables. I could have done this for the last 4 years, you know?
But did you honestly feel like a loser at that point?
Oh, dude, absolutely, bro.
Really?
When you can know you got more in you than what you're bringing, you kind of start telling yourself, oh, I was totally there.
But I mean, I didn't know you then.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, you were still positive, Pete.
Yeah, I was still giving off good vibes. That doesn't mean that you felt fulfilled asking somebody how they want their burger cooked.
But not feeling fulfilled is different than feeling like a loser.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're destined for more.
Right.
But it's not like you were, on the sidewalk sleeping. You weren't a loser. You were figuring life out. You were putting your pieces together.
I was feeling like a loser, bro.
I
was drinking on the rag, living with my parents.
I didn't know you
not
then.
much.
I can't
pat yourself on the back then.
I just can't see that side of Pete.
Right.
I've never been exposed to it.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for the Pete I have.
It's the same guy, just making poor choices.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be you without those poor choices.
100%. And that's what I say about not only my wrestling journey, but almost my life journey, that I can have these conversations with these 23-year-olds and just relate to them, let them know, like, all these hardships, like academic probation, being academically ineligible, like all these things that felt to be so much, I'm almost grateful for now that I'm like, all right. And like with Shane, I was trying to tell him, like, hey, man, college is different, bro. They give you the syllabus. Something's due in 3 months. You got plenty of time. Practice is 2 hours. Like, and I almost manifested the wrong way for him to get on academic probation. But now that he's no longer on academic probation, now he sees it. His time management's on point. Summer classes, more workouts. He's coming to the club, giving back to the kids. So, that's really what it's all about. And that's what I was just watching Nick Roy get interviewed, and, somebody was asking him what his biggest takeaway from wrestling has been, and he said pretty much like, my line has been that life is the wrestlebacks. And, his thing was, you lose and you're back on the mat in 30 minutes. Your whole dreams just got shattered. You sat in the bleachers and you're back on the mat. And Nick Roy just said, that's life. And it's true. You're finding your stride. You got to put yourself
together right away.
You're feeling like you got it all figured out. Like, oh, I got the money, I got the kids, everything. Boom. Then you got to get back on your horse.
To the gut, Yep.
And you got back on your horse and persevere.
Wrestling prepares you for that, I feel like for life. Like Nick said, you got to get back out there in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't tell you how many times I've just, you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. Life's an emotional roller coaster. And you either figure out the tools to deal with it and weather that storm, or you don't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that crumble. I'd like to say that I know more people that have dealt with adversity well than haven't, but it's not the case. I know a lot of people that crumble under pressure or in that weak moment.
Yeah, humans are pretty resilient overall. But I'm a little bit selfish to the wrestling, that wrestling's the only thing. Like, what I was thinking of with my son is he loves football. He's been wrestling for a few years. He was in the Jersey Shore League this year. I'm very, very cool very, easygoing. He stays very calm during his matches, but he doesn't love it. But my thing that I've been holding on to, which you kind of opened my mind to, there's still other ways that kids can get life lessons. It's not just the match. We think it's just the match. So like what I've been holding on to is like, all right, well, I want him to have some struggle, overcome obstacles. Yeah. He can get that on the football field. Sure. He can get that anywhere. Our community thinks that this is the end all be all. Yeah. And I think we have a little bit more resilience to things because of the, some of the things we were talking to Lex about.
That's an incredible point. That everybody in our community thinks
we do.
This is the only way to fight through adversity.
Exactly. But look at Zach. Yeah. He fought through it. He was just fine. He stepped away from wrestling. Like, I might actually have to one day have that talk with my son. Yeah. And thankfully, after listening to you, I could say with confidence, like, I would still love him regardless of the wrestling. Maybe it's a little bit of a selfish thing. I don't want him to be, have all these crazy accolades and stuff. I just know what it did for me. But that doesn't mean that other things can't do the same thing for him.
But there's a lot to be said. Now, my son is 6. He's been wrestling since he's like 4.5. He plays football, baseball, just started BMX. Wrestling, it's different than a team sport because when you're on the mat, it's just you.
Yeah.
And you got to manage that. So it's similar to BMX because it's just him on that bike.
Yeah.
But baseball, you could blame somebody else. Football, you could blame somebody else.
Sports.
You could blend into the background in either one of those team sports.
That's what separates wrestling.
That's what, exactly.
And what you put into it is what you get out of it. And that's
the best.
You hear about all the good guys we've gotten over the years. Why didn't this guy pan? There's reasons why guys don't pan out because it's what you
a lot of times the mirror is answering a lot of those questions.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, well, because of the code, but it's one thing you can't. And now as these guys get older, man, I wish I did this. I wish I did that.
That's
of
when
course.
It starts. Yeah. That's when the light bulbs really start going off. For me, all the light bulbs went off at 29 when my son was born. I was like, now I understand why my dad worked 6 days a week, drove up to Jersey City, made all those sacrifices. So I try to tell the kids, like, hey, be grateful for all these things that your parents have, but it's hard for guys to just listen to somebody else and say, oh, okay, you're right, I'm going to do that. You almost got to feel it yourself.
Like Zach almost had to feel,
Zach almost had to feel what it felt like to watch his teammates on TV to say, okay, you know what? This isn't the place for me.
I think at the end of the day, he was searching for something a little bit different. Maybe he didn't think he could compete. Maybe he didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. What am I doing? And he told me, I went into Coach Ciano. He had played a great spring practice. It was just a practice and caught like 4 passes, 2 for touchdowns in just a practice. Yeah. And he went in, I remember because I was golfing. And I go, oh, that's great. He said, so are you everything good now? He's like, no, I went in and told Coach, I just don't love it like you love it. And I don't. And I was like, all right, I respect it. And then that was it. I never once asked, how did the conversation go with Coach? I never once let him figure it out. And sure enough, 2 years later, because I knew he loved to compete. I just knew he loved to compete and I knew he had confidence in what he can do and his ability. And then out of nowhere, which was great because it was all on him.
Yep.
And
he probably did a lot of soul searching in those moments.
I'm sure. And I know there's outside factors. First girlfriend, she went away. He wanted to be with her.
Right.
He'll never admit that, and my wife won't admit
that. That's okay.
I'm admitting it right now.
They're watching.
No, and that's not a bad thing.
But no, it's not at all.
Thing. It's because she's a great girl, and that's just part of it. That's part of every kid has a different story.
Yep.
Every kid is, and I've been around a million of them, so I've heard them all. And whether it's a single mom, or whether it's single dad, or whether it's an alcoholic dad, or whether it's an alcoholic family, whether it's drugs, whether it's whatever it is. I've heard it and seen it all.
I was going to say, you've probably seen it all.
And each kid has its own path, and you just never know. We talk about this a lot. It's going to be that one practice. Sooner or later, it's going to click. Maybe it's a practice. Maybe it's a run. Maybe it's a lift. Maybe it's winning a big match.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's going to click somewhere where at the end of the day, you're going to be like, man, this was the best decision I ever made.
Exactly.
And for him, somewhere along the line, it must have clicked. I don't know when that was.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
I just know Christmas Eve, my sister is a head basketball coach at Jackson for 25 years now. So Christmas Eve, I get 5 of my son, Johnny O'Donnell, our heavyweight. Yep. Russ Thistle, he's a manager on the Rutgers basketball team. They're all Tom Zerr kids. And my buddy Eddie Carney and myself, we go 5-on-5. My sister's like, bring them in. We'll play the girls. So I'm like, fuck, excuse my language, I'm nuts. Like, all right, dude, we'll play us. We'll play us. I didn't slept very little that night. I was like, I got to be on. So my son, I know, and I'm like trying to beat high school girls. We kicked their ass. And my son was jumping through the roof, like catching the ball here. I'm like, man, he's such a good athlete.
Right.
And the more he got so confident doing that, I'm like, maybe that was who knows when it was.
Maybe it was.
But he's jumping through the roof.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's against my
Still.
sister's girls team.
But the competitive spirit, he saw his athleticism that day,
Maybe
and he's
that
like,
was it. I don't
it
know
could
what
have
it
been.
was.
Maybe just realized he needed that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
needed a break.
A break is a big point too.
Well, did he fill his time with anything after stepping aside from football?
He lived with my guys, started living with the wrestlers, and went to school, did great in school, didn't leave school, didn't want to leave school, so he wanted to stay at Rutgers, and then again, something must have clicked, and that's kind of it. The rest is kind of
awesome.
And I don't know what that means. I don't know if he'll ever get on the field, but he told, the one thing I was proud of him, he's like, when he went to meet with Coach Yano, because he told me, he said, I just want to be part of the team again.
That's it.
I just want to be on this team, because it brings him joy, being a part of it. And now it seems like he's not a huge part of it. I'm sure they got studs, and again, but if he gets on the field, a couple times,
It's Big Ten football.
It's Big Ten football.
But that's almost back to the community too.
He's showing up, and he knows that he just wants to be a part of something special.
And his expectations to play one day. So
That's awesome.
I truly believe it'll.
He's gonna.
If he
can't wait
keeps
to see
showing up,
that.
it sounds like as a family, you guys have enough drive to get there. He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He's got your genetics. It's running.
I think that's what you say, though. He'll figure it out. He's got to figure it out, and you got to let him. You got to let him figure it out. And that was hard. Listen, when I tell you that was hard for me, it was really, really difficult. I just separated myself, and I ate it. And listen, you don't think I know there's guys probably, well, he's only there because Coach Goodale's the wrestling,
It's back to those haters chirping again.
So you just bite your lip, you move on, and he'll figure it out, and he's figured it out.
That's great.
So,
You kind of had to let him figure it out because you can't go through life with him. You can't take a football field with him. He's got to learn to pick himself up a little bit.
That was almost like that moment as a parent with a grown kid that you're like, shoot, I've been holding their hand, walking them into school. They got
It's over now.
I was worried. I didn't want to lose my relationship with him. Like that's
the
big
most important
fear of mine. Like I want to grow old with this guy. I want to go to ball games with him. I want to see his grandkids. I was like, I jump in his ass now. Who knows how this goes?
Right.
So I'd never had to do that with my daughter.
Right.
Just she was so self-driven. But my son, I worried about that a little bit because we're from the sports world, right? Him and I are from the. So I just had to back off, and of course the wife, and he would always go to the wife.
Yeah.
I'm like, you babying him, but she knows how to handle him.
She knows how to handle
it.
It
worked. So
God bless.
There's a little parent advice for you.
Hey, we'll take all of it. We'll take all of it.
You got to have that balance, right?
Yeah.
So she balanced you out.
Yeah.
Yep.
She really did. And my wife doesn't get into the whole sports thing. Be a great person. Do what you need to do. Hard day's work. All that good stuff.
Love
know.
that.
And I
love that. We call that the lunch pail guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So me, it's hard day's work. A good Turk.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
Rutgers wrestling. That's about it for me, right? Of course, my family. So
I love it.
That's kind of how I live my life.
It keeps you jolted and energized. So it seems like your day to day is a lot. Like, what are you doing for yourself to keep you going? You seem lean these days.
I still train.
Yeah,
I'm like somebody's hurt. All right, I'll go with you.
Right.
Drill. I still want to drill.
I can imagine.
Right? So John Paz is coming off a little surgery in his shoulder. He just got back on the mat yesterday. He's like, "Good, you want to go?" I'm thinking, not really, not with you.
Not with you.
But if you ask me, I'm going to go. That's the one thing I always say. If somebody ever asks me to do something, I'm going to be there.
I love it.
So if he asks me to train because he's coming off an injury, let's drill. And Andy Clark is coming off an injury. So I'm kind of that guy, but I want to get my fill of wrestling in. So
that's going to be you.
I still wrestle, and it keeps me sane. I want to stay young with these guys, and I don't want to be that guy that's just barking demands. And for years,
nobody likes that.
For years, maybe up until a couple years ago, we go on a run up the garage, which is the stadium stairs. I would do it.
I love
Morning run, 7 a.m. Friday in the stadium. I'm doing it.
I love it.
I'm not going to ask them to do something, but it's slowed down a little bit now as I get older. But I'm just surrounded by savage. Donnie Pritzloff is still training with Sebastian,
which is amazing,
and he's really good. And I'm like, man, that guy is so darn good. So I just want to stay young, and then there's times you got to unwind and kind of get away from it. I golf a lot and try to hang out with a different.
How's
group.
your golf game?
It's not bad. It's pretty good.
My man's an athlete.
Yeah,
he's bringing
all right.
it
So
out
should
there.
we get him in an outing?
That would be awesome. I'm sure he's down. Serious, Dad. We
I'm
might
like
have
I
to join
only
at
play
the
with
Rutgers
studs,
Arrow.
handicap,
All right.
so I could play a little bit.
Me and Billy in golf have all handicaps.
Yeah.
So
Well, here's the deal. I go to the club. I go to Pine Barrens. I'm a member of Pine Barrens,
Nice.
and I
You
get
put
my-
in the time.
I get my
You
butt
reps in.
kicked. I get my butt kicked, and they make fun of me and ride me, and it's just they don't care who I am or what I've done, and
Yeah.
they want to take my $20, and I'm like, there's my competitive. Like, let's
exactly.
Good news.
Right?
You come
So-
golf with me, you'll feel like you
I'll
belong
tell you
on
what,
the
that's
PGA Tour.
another mental sport that you
Yeah,
get at where you put
sure.
in. There's a lot of times when guys are freaking out on the golf course, and I'm just like, how many reps do you get in? Like, if you're ripping buckets of balls every
Yeah.
day and you play multiple times a week,
Then you gotta be
and you
mad.
had a bad day, all right, maybe. But dude, your clubs are dusty in the shed. You just
That's-
brought them out. What do
That's
you
like
expect
me
today?
being mad I shot a 110. Like,
Yeah.
come
You
on.
can't, no, you
Yeah.
can't. You can't. That's
Yeah.
it's. I do it for enjoyment and to be around a certain, different group of guys and whoever. These guys all end up being season ticket holders and donors, so it's a
Exactly.
good group. So it's takes me away from the grind every day, especially this time of year,
Good.
because it could be, with all the
Oh, I'm
recruiting and all the traveling.
Yeah.
and-
I'm sure, man. The first thing I thought when I saw you in the parking lot with the Rutgers polo on is like, you're probably heavy into recruiting right now.
yeah,
Or
I'll
just
leave- yeah.
literally, I mean, it probably
Sure.
doesn't stop.
It doesn't
but
really stop,
yeah.
but this is a good time for visits, right? Kids
Yep.
are getting out of school. They could, like, we got a kid. I'll leave here today and run up to the airport, pick up a kid from Poway, California.
Awesome.
Oh,
Tough
wow.
little kid. So
Awesome.
that part, I enjoy that. I
Yeah.
enjoy doing we were out in Michigan, Donnie and I flew out for one day and did a home visit. I enjoy that stuff.
Nice.
I love a good home visit and meeting guys and meeting families and, again, building those relationships. And maybe you don't get those guys, but down the line, you
Yeah.
could.
Do you have any programs or any coaches that you've tried to like emulate in all your time on the D1 level? You try to just create your own?
Yeah, everybody's always asked me that, through all the times I've been doing these speaking engagements and, who's your mentors and
Yeah.
and I've had guys like Chris Barnes was a football coach at Jackson who just every day was a great practice plan. And he
love
made
that.
practice plans. So I took that from him. And then I took stuff from my dad who grew up coaching all of my friends, and I took stuff from Coach Ayers, and because he was a wrestling coach with Mr. Ryder. But for me, I never I didn't study certain guys.
Right.
I'm going to do it this way because I think if we do it this way, it could work. And then I would always add a little bit,
Good.
take away a little bit. I have constant dialogue with my assistants. So,
Good.
But I talk to coaches. How are you doing this? How are you doing that? But even when I was at Jackson, I just felt like this is the way we're going to do it. Not that it was my way or the highway. And times have changed.
But your ways work.
Yeah,
It's proven
for-
successful,
yeah.
not just at Rutgers,
Yeah.
but in Jackson.
I always let my coaches coach, but I
That's
had
huge.
a system I've always wanted in place for the most part, and I've done that for a long, long time. Now, like I said, things have changed. If you look at Donnie Pritzloff ran our Big Ten preparation. We had our best Big Ten we've had in years.
That's awesome.
So who am I not to take from one of the best coaches in the world? So I was always like that. I'd never had, this is the way we're doing it, Goodale's way. It was never like that.
Good.
Even with Coach Leonardis, when he was ready to run something, and Pollard, when they're ready to run something, they run it. And
Good.
I sit back, but Donnie's awesome, and kids are different, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I could tell you Yara, our heavyweights preparation was different than Dylan Shawver's or Dean Peterson's or John Poznansky's. Guys go about things different ways now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of you have to adapt to that.
Good.
So I was never about, this is my way. When I was at Jackson, those Winston teams with Sean Burns and the Bascas, and all those dudes were studs. Yeah. But they wanted structure.
Right.
They wanted us to put them through something
almost
really
needed it.
hard. They
Where
wanted all
now
that.
the guys that you have at the age group, the
Yeah.
success they've had on the high school level, success they've already had, they kind of have a good feel for it.
But I'll tell you this, Sebastian Rivera is going to wrestle in the Olympic Games this year, and he's in our room every day, wants structure.
Okay.
The best guys want structure.
Yeah.
They don't
like
want to do
that.
it on their own.
Yeah.
They want a coach putting them through it. So
Yeah.
I'm always there for that, but I also understand you need a day off. You need to go hard today.
True.
So I tell this story all the time, and I don't want to bore you with it. But
No,
it's,
I want the
we
story.
love it.
I
We
love
love
those
it.
stories.
Yeah.
Ashnault and Suriano won national titles 2019, same year, same team, right? Went about it two totally different ways.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Ashnault was a gunslinger, man. Every Wednesday's an off day. Suriano wouldn't touch the facility. He'd stay away, and he'd let his body rest because he trained so hard. And Ashnault would go with Pritzloff. Maybe
Right.
go in the morning, maybe come back at night. He would do a double or whatever.
Yeah.
Just went about a totally different way. Soriano, laser beam focused, no outside noise. Lost a couple matches during the year. I was like, I'm locked in right now.
Yeah.
I don't even want to wrestle the Maryland match. I'm locked in on the Big Ten's national championship.
Let's go.
Astronaut's talking to the basketball team, talking to the football team. These guys are rock stars on campus, but they went about it two totally different ways. Football coaches making millions of dollars. Hey, Nick, take a picture with me. Soriano's taking pictures, right? Just went about it two totally different ways. So what works for you may not work for you. So that's part of adapting, and I've learned that.
It's like tweaking the recipe a little bit.
Sure. But I didn't have to do that at Jackson. We ran a system, and all the coaches were involved, and everybody respected the heck out of the staff.
Yep.
Jackson was a unique thing, though, when you were there.
That was super special. And I remember those pictures. You guys had a lot of coaches on staff.
We did.
And back when I was coaching at Howell, like, we used to laugh, but we had a staff that was probably like 10 to 12 people back then. It was like they're taking photos and like, oh, we got to move back for the coaches picture. Had to move way back.
They want to be a part of it. They want to help out, and they want to be around success and help kids become successful. And that's the biggest, talk about gratitude. That was the best thing ever.
I can imagine.
Some of my best days in my life were those district tournaments, man.
And the old District 21.
Was great.
The best.
Now, we won every year.
Which made it even more enjoyable, but I wasn't on the winning teams and I was having a blast. That was so special over there. And the fact that you guys are winning definitely ramped it up, but it was ramped up. I don't even think Freehold Township was in the top 10 on the team score, and I had a blast over there.
Yeah.
I mean,
that Friday night of districts was a big deal back then.
It was so special. And now they switched it up. I know. Yeah. Well, they switched that all up, and now the cars you're driving from all over the place. It kind of lost that feel. Good motivation to get more kids down to AC, but I'm still kind of hung up on the old ways. And then now they revamped the whole divisions.
Yes.
So I used to be a big fan of the group you guys are in, A South. As a wrestling fan, I loved A South.
Yeah.
That was a bloodbath for you guys, but hey, only strong survive. And now there's like the A division, the B division, the C, all the way down. But it does give those almost a little bit of incentive to kind of turn things up. So we'll see how it plays out. But you're right though, man. That old school District 21, even the old school Region 6.
Region 6 was hard.
Like the tail end of your high school career was like the peak of Region 6.
Yeah. I remember Kenny Carney losing to Seidenberg.
Wild.
Dan.
And then probably won it the following weekend.
Took third in the region. And
I heard
won the
Dan
state
was
tournament.
A savage too.
Dan was good.
Yeah.
Dan was good.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Dan was good.
Now, he wrestled in college as well?
He wrestled Rutgers. He was with
did?
us. Yeah.
I wasn't certain.
Yep. And then you got the sauna going, right? You're in the sauna every day. That's keeping you charged up. How long you go in for?
Some days it depends on what program I'm doing, but I have this, I call it a Russian sauna. If I I got some time and because I can't sit in there all the time, but I do this Russian sauna. I encourage you to try this. It's 20 minutes, 3-minute break. You go get a cold shower, eat some fruit, drink some water, go back in for 15 minutes, 3-minute break. Go back in for 10 minutes, 3-minute break, 5 minutes. It's 59-minute go.
Beautiful.
So it's
beautiful. I'll definitely take you up on that.
The cold plunge is something I've incorporated this year. I sit in it every day.
You have one at the house?
No, up at school.
Okay.
I stand in it. I go up here. Okay. That's about as much as
you guys have one of those old school ones, like the metal.
The metal ones?
Do you remember those?
No, we have a.
I'm sure you got state of the art.
Yeah, we're
I'm
spoiled.
sure.
It's Rutgers, man.
Yeah.
I know. So you're going in there pretty much on the daily, or as much as you're up there.
You could go cold plunge hot tub.
That's always a nice transition.
So there are two like spas right next to each other, and one's freezing, and the other's
perfect. I remember watching The Ultimate Fighter in like 2008, and I was cutting a lot of weight, wrestling 157, and those guys got into the cold plunge. So I jumped in one of those old school ones, and I loved it. But then years went by. And now I'm in it every single day, 6 minutes, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go in the morning.
Now?
Yeah, the 4, the 3. It just.
I'm such a loser.
I do a 7-minute go.
Yeah, it's so good though.
I had, believe it or not, Poznansky was like, you got to control your breathing. Like this guy's telling me, and he's right. You just get in a state where you could just relax.
I love how like open-minded and everything that you are. Like a lot of the things that you're describing about yourself is almost like what we've seen, like what not to do by a lot of other coaches. Like, even the guy who has his foot on the wall. Like I never want to be that guy.
Oh, don't be that guy.
Like I started coaching in 2008. Jack with Stanley said to me and Mike Gaeta, okay, you guys are the young bucks. So I never even had a chance to put my foot against the wall. And then, running with everybody. But being able to not look at a young Poznanski who's an absolute stud and be like, don't tell me what to do, I'm the coach. It's like, all right, Poznanski, I'm going to get my breathing right. Appreciate the insight. I had Jerry Leshy in the backyard. He's over at Dante Rivera's. He's got some fights coming up and stuff. He was in for about 17 seconds. But at the breathing, he was too panicked. And I'm like, dude, put on a calming song. Try to relax. And he jumped out.
So
he went back in.
I think the majority of the health, but mental health benefit with cold plunge is the breathing. It's
keeping you in the present.
Yeah, you're basically meditating.
Yeah.
And I hate the cold plunge, coach.
I did too.
I'm not there. Too. But I can meditate. I can bring myself down, and I find a lot of value in that. But the first couple times I cold plunged, I realized how similar it was because I'm gasping for air, trying to get my breath under control.
Yeah.
And once you do, I'm not going to say you got some peace, but it helps significantly. You got a little bit of clarity at least, you know?
And I don't think you ever get used to it.
No.
Yesterday it was freezing. I'm like, what am I doing? But just relax and get
That's
7 minutes in.
7 minutes. Just relax.
You never get used to it,
That's
but
7 minutes, dude. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I do 7 minutes, 7-minute match.
All right,
Where'd you start? What did you start at? Like
when
2 minutes, a minute?
No, 30 seconds. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not doing this. This is the word. I'd hold on to we have a railing in ours. I'd hold on to it. And all the boys, because it's connected to the training room, they'd be like, film me, make fun of me, post it. Look, go down. I'd hold on like, And then Paz was like, dude, just relax.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, sure enough, now we go on the road. Somebody has a cold plunge. I jump in it.
Good.
But I got to graduate to like getting underneath, getting the shoulders underneath. I want to do that.
I'm sure you'll get there. It's going to help with your physical recovery too, going with Paz. I'm sure you woke up hurting.
No, it was good. It was a lot. Listen, I'm not going to act like it was a full
live go. Right. But still.
I don't do any live. It was a nice flow, getting him back into
it.
We
can pretend here. It's all right.
No.
You know, but still, some of these grizzly bears, some of these grizzly bears, one collar tie, get your neck.
My neck is killing me.
I can imagine. Pulling on your head.
He's the type of guy that gets you real tired because he's so active on his feet, and his hand fighting, and his footwork, and his level change. It's like, I'd rather just wrestle someone who just hand fights. I could pull my neck and I can hand
pull
fight
your neck, move around a little bit.
Constantly moving.
Good.
I'm like, oh, man.
Well, that's a good sign for his wrestling career. That's where all the points are on the other side of that hand fight.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I see him getting after it in the weight room too. Like,
you follow
he's
him, right?
He's a friggin' powerhouse.
So there's another thing too. You talk about being open and let your athletes tell you what they need. Mm-hmm. We have a team lift and we have an incredible strength and conditioning coach. But Paz has his thing mentally where he wants to be in the garage late at night with weights on. If that's what you want to do, I know you're lifting. I'm not worried about it.
Exactly.
So let him do it.
That's it.
Back in 2000, maybe I'd be like, this is what we do. But I'm not. It's just not like that anymore. So I like to think we've adapted to that.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Billy, you got anything else for Coach?
I don't. I do apologize. My mom just texted me.
No, you're fine.
I heard you talking about adapting.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Everything good?
Yeah. My dad's a little under the weather, so it's been a rough couple days, but he's a warrior and a warrior, not a worrier. He gets through it.
Yeah.
And, we all make the best of it. Yeah. Adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
You know, so I could sit here and I could tell you guys I didn't give you my best, but I'll tell
Billy,
you.
Nobody's judging, baby.
Hold on. But what I was going to say is, batteries and generators, you guys gave it to me, and I feel pretty good. I mean, I could sit here and I could complain or I could worry or whatever, but I know what's going to come, and you adapt and overcome, just like life. So I appreciate both of you today.
So now you're going to go see him today and just be fired up when you do.
That's what I was going to say.
He might not appreciate that so much.
Well, fired up when you see him, and also take that battery charge right to your family.
Yeah.
Don't go home.
I got to see my mom. She's up there now. So
give it to your mom.
We're getting him some arrangements to come home, so he'll be home soon. But she goes through it, and my mom is a champion. She's got no quit in her. She might have some tough days.
Those old school North Jersey ladies, man. I don't mess with them.
It's that little Italian woman in her that's screaming to come out. She's ready to fight all the time, and she does a great job. But she's there now, going through some stuff. So she just texted me. But I really do appreciate your time today. We've heard
absolutely
through this journey that me and Peter on. Your names come up so much, so frequently with people that I genuinely have respect for. Like Dave Porta is one of the best guys that I know. Our boys, his son Jack, and my son Max do everything together. And I've come to really value Dave. So when he went to bat saying how great you were, I expected the legend to fall a little bit short, but I got to be honest, you bring the vibe. You're like an older version of Pete.
I'll tell you a quick Dave Porter story, because you talk about Kylie, and I don't know which Kylie, that must have been Dave.
Yeah.
Short Conference Championship 2000. Porter wasn't a superstar. He was just a tough kid in the lineup. I think he won his match 1917. He beat Kylie. We beat Brick Memorial.
Wow.
Remember how good Brick Memorial used to be?
I remember how good Brick Memorial used to be. I remember Dave Kiley went on to wrestle at Virginia Tech, too.
Yep.
And he was a real workman.
And I hope I got the names right. I don't want to screw that, but I'm pretty
It was probably Dave, because Mike's a little younger.
Lacey, I wasn't the head coach. Al Ayers was the head coach, but it was 2000. But Porter, that was the big win right
Dave
there.
went
I don't
to
know
war.
if it was Kylie.
Right. Might have been one of
Dave
those.
Porter won us that.
Those
gold
Porters
medal.
are
That's
tough,
amazing.
man.
Yeah.
You know what? I saw Dave while his mom was battling cancer. He would be at youth wrestling practice 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
He was coaching at Shore. You know, he's in the wrestling grind at Shore. He'd leave practice, maybe come home and shower. Never miss a youth practice, but you'd never get the vibe. Like, I didn't know really what was going on. He wasn't showing it.
Yeah.
And I think the wrestling room does have a unique way of allowing you to just almost escape everything else for a moment. Like, you could be having a tough day, and it's for somebody like you, I don't want to say it's easy to turn it on and off, but when you're in there, hey, man, we're here.
Yep.
We're here. This is our happy place, man. This is where it all goes down, and when we leave, we'll get back to it. But
I had that experience yesterday.
Yeah.
I was at the hospital. I went to the gym. I didn't want to go. I showed up dressed in my work clothes, and we got after it, bro.
I saw a video of that with the khakis on, bro.
Yeah, bro. Robbie wasn't having it. I was like, bro, let's just hang out.
Yeah.
We'll do a little bit. Let's talk. I'm a little emotional. He's like, yeah, we're gonna get this work. And we got that fucking work, man.
There you go.
Love it.
But
There you go.
I left there
Yeah.
ready
Feeling
to go.
good.
And you know, I mean, bro, you just gotta push through.
Sometimes
Whether it's
that's
a
all we
wrestling
need.
room, the gym, or you go to the reservoir, which I'm not doing to run 5 miles, whatever it is, get a little bit of sweat going.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we're so much closer to that. Sometimes I think that that's really just all we need. As human beings, we got to push. You know, we got to push towards something, a goal-wise, but also physically. And it doesn't have to be some crazy workout, but just get a little bit sweaty and see how you feel when you're done.
Yeah.
Get your
I
body-
guarantee
we talk
you're
about
going
that
to
all the
feel...
time. Just get your body moving.
Yeah,
Get your
you
body
never
moving.
hear anyone gossiping at the gym. You never hear people talking smack at the gym. Like, no, everybody, you don't really see much doom and gloom at the gym. You know, bad posture. Like, hey, we're here, we're sweaty, we're jolted up. Like, let's get after it.
Listen, I know
I saw
yesterday.
a guy with one leg yesterday. Freaking, I couldn't believe it, man. I went right up to him. I'm like, dude, this is amazing. Like, God bless you. He turned out to be a military vet, but, you know, that guy could have sat on the couch.
Yeah.
I'm sure people were judging him too, maybe, or he's
probably judging himself more than
consciously
anybody
he's
else.
thinking, you know, what am I doing? But, dude, guy's fucking getting after it. No excuses.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, so I guess
I think that's it, boys.
we're all done here. Coach, I
appreciate
really
it.
appreciate your
thank
time.
you. Thank
good
you.
stuff.
That was
Good
awesome,
stuff.
man.
Good
Appreciate
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get out to a match soon. I'll bring my
you
son
go.
up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll
Oh,
get out
dude.
there.
If your son's in the circuit, you got
And
to do it.
forget
You
it.
got to come golf with us.
I
It's a
will.
place to
I
be.
will.
Let's go to the Rutgers outing.
Yeah, there's
Done.
a good one.
So we'll look it
We're
up
in.
and then we'll go
Yeah,
there.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
We're in.
We'll see
All
if
right.
maybe we can go with the dine that day.
Bro, I'm
might be
actually
too
looking forward
Hollywood.
to that. I'm a terrible golfer,
It's
but
still fun.
Just
it's
go.
fun just to be out there. Like
Yeah.
I put zero pressure on myself out there. I get a little frustrated, but it's just about being with friends,
Yeah.
laughing,
Actually, I
enjoying
got
it.
it. Sidey, Lex, me, and you.
Done.
And if
Let's
one of
do
those
it.
guys can't go, then we'll sub out somebody
Yeah,
else.
let's go.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Cool.
that'd be awesome.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you don't mind, click the links, like, share, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.
Let's go. All right.